Hamas? Today we delve into the history and influence of this significant player in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Emerging from the tumultuous period of the First Intifada in 1987, Hamas, or Harakat al-Muqawama al-Islamiya, meaning the Islamic Resistance Movement, set its roots deep within the occupied territories of the Gaza Strip and the West Bank. Born from the Muslim Brotherhood, a formidable Islamist political and religious movement with a far-reaching presence in the Muslim world, Hamas was formed as a resistance against the Israeli occupation, its ultimate vision, an Islamic Palestinian state. This movement, however, was not just about politics and religion. It was about providing social services, education and healthcare, a strategy that won the hearts of many Palestinians. But beneath the surface, a military wing was also being nurtured, one that would later partake in acts of violence. Let's rewind to the late 80s, to the birth of Hamas. 1987 marks the year of Hamas's formation, a time of intense political upheaval. Born amidst the First Intifada, a Palestinian uprising against Israeli rule, Hamas emerged as a branch of the Muslim Brotherhood. This Islamic political movement had its roots in Egypt, but its branches spread across various parts of the Muslim world. Hamas, or Harakat al-Muqawama al-Islamiya, which translates to Islamic Resistance Movement, was formed in the heart of conflict zones, the Gaza Strip and the West Bank. The organization was a direct response to the Israeli occupation of these territories. It was a resistance movement, a voice for those who felt unheard and oppressed, a beacon for those seeking an Islamic Palestinian state. But Hamas was not just a political movement, it was a social one as well. It saw the need for communal welfare, for education, for healthcare. It worked towards meeting these needs, gaining popularity and support among Palestinians. But underneath the social work, there was an undercurrent of resistance, a call to arms against the occupation. Hamas maintained a military wing, the Is al-Qassam brigades. This wing was responsible for violent acts, including suicide bombings and rocket attacks against Israeli targets. It was a stark reminder that beneath the social services and the political discourse, there was a group ready to fight for its vision of an Islamic Palestinian state. But Hamas's influence extended beyond politics. Hamas wasn't just a political movement, it was a social one too. At its core, Hamas understood the power of social services. It saw the gaps left by the existing system and seized the opportunity to fill them. It dug deep into the social fabric of Palestinian society, establishing schools, hospitals, and charities. These institutions served a dual purpose. On one hand, they catered to the immediate needs of the people, providing education, healthcare, and financial assistance to those in need. But on the other hand, they were also tools of influence, helping to shape public opinion and garner support for Hamas. The organization's ability to provide these essential services, where the Palestinian Authority often fell short, won it a significant following among the people. Its popularity was not just born out of ideological alignment, but also out of gratitude for the tangible benefits it brought to everyday life. Hamas's social services became a cornerstone of its identity, a beacon of hope in the harsh realities of occupation. It wasn't merely about resistance, it was about building a society from the ground up, in line with its vision of an Islamic Palestinian state. This was the face of Hamas that many Palestinians came to know and support. Yet Hamas had another, more violent side. Beside its social and political activities, Hamas had a military wing. This was the Is al-Qassam brigades, named after a Palestinian nationalist leader. The brigades played a significant role in the organization's resistance efforts. Their method of operation included suicide bombings and rocket attacks, primarily aimed at Israeli targets. This was their way of pushing back against what they perceived as an oppressive occupation. The violence perpetrated by this military wing was, and still is, a matter of deep controversy. Many see it as a legitimate form of resistance against an occupying force. Others view it as acts of terrorism, causing unnecessary harm and loss of life. It's a complex issue with no easy answers. The brigades also served another purpose for Hamas. They were a show of force, a demonstration of the organization's commitment to their cause. However, Hamas's influence didn't stop with its military activities. Their reach extended into other areas, shaping the political landscape in ways that continue to resonate today. In the early 2000s, Hamas made a significant political leap. Choosing to participate in the Palestinian elections, Hamas aimed to secure a place within the formal political system. Their strategy was successful, and they won a considerable number of seats in the Palestinian Legislative Council, demonstrating their widespread support among the populace. This electoral success, however, was not without its complications. In 2007, following a brief but intense civil conflict, Hamas took control of the Gaza Strip, asserting their dominance over their political rival, Fatah. This power shift marked a significant turning point in the Palestinian territories, creating a stark division within the region. On one side there was Hamas, ruling the Gaza Strip with an iron fist. On the other side, the West Bank under the control of Fatah. This division was not just geographical, it was deeply ingrained in the political and social fabric of the Palestinian territories. Two separate governments were now operating simultaneously, each with its own set of rules and regulations, and each claiming to represent the interests of the Palestinian people. Efforts to reconcile these two factions and form a unified Palestinian government were initiated, but they faced numerous challenges and setbacks. This division, however, was not merely an internal matter. It had far-reaching implications, setting the stage for a series of conflicts with Israel. The split between Hamas and Fatah, the two most powerful political entities within the Palestinian territories, complicated negotiations with Israel and made the prospect of peace seem even more elusive. The political participation of Hamas, therefore, was a game-changer. It not only altered the power dynamics within the Palestinian territories, but also significantly impacted the broader Israeli-Palestinian conflict. This political leap by Hamas, coupled with the subsequent division within the Palestinian territories, has had profound and lasting effects on the region. This division set the stage for a series of conflicts with Israel. Hamas and Israel have a history of intense conflict. This statement is as true today as it was when Hamas was first established. Over the years, the two entities have engaged in several wars, particularly in Gaza. These conflicts have resulted in significant casualties and an unparalleled amount of suffering on both sides. The violence has not been one-sided, though. Hamas, through its military wing, the Izz al-Din al-Qassam brigades, has carried out acts of aggression, including suicide bombings and rocket attacks against Israeli targets. These actions, coupled with Hamas's refusal to recognize the State of Israel, have led to its designation as a terrorist organization by many countries, including Israel itself and the United States. This designation has significant implications. It means that Hamas is subject to sanctions and restrictions, making it difficult for the group to operate internationally. It also impacts the perception of Hamas globally, with many viewing the group not as a legitimate political entity but as a dangerous and disruptive force. It's essential, however, to remember that this is a complex, multifaceted issue. While many see the actions of Hamas as indefensible, others perceive them as a response to what they consider an illegal occupation by Israel. The situation is further complicated by the fact that there are also many Palestinians who, while not supporting the violence, do support Hamas's broader political goals. Yet despite this turbulent history, there have been attempts at peace. Even amidst the violence, there have been glimmers of hope. The turbulent history of Hamas and Israel has not been devoid of moments when the guns fell silent, giving way to negotiations and ceasefires. Despite the deep-seated animosity and the vast ideological chasm separating the two, they have on occasions found themselves at the same negotiating table, albeit through intermediaries. A ceasefire, or hudna in Arabic, is not an uncommon concept in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Hamas has agreed to these temporary cessations of violence, offering a respite from the relentless cycle of attacks and retaliation. These ceasefires, while often fragile and short-lived, provide a much-needed breather for the beleaguered inhabitants of Gaza and southern Israel. The ceasefires also pave the way for negotiations, which aim for a more enduring peace. These talks, conducted through intermediaries like Egypt or Qatar, seek to address broader issues. They delve into matters like easing the Israeli blockade on Gaza, prisoner exchanges, and the broader question of Palestinian statehood. However, these negotiations are fraught with challenges. Differences over terms, breaches of the ceasefire, or changes in the political landscape can all derail the process. Yet they persist, driven by the hope for a lasting peace. Hamas's influence continues to shape the Israeli-Palestinian conflict to this day. Its willingness to negotiate, even as it maintains its militant stance, illustrates the complexity of this protracted conflict and hints at the potential paths towards resolution. So, who is Hamas really? A question that unravels a narrative of resistance, social service, political ambition, and conflict. Born out of a struggle against occupation, Hamas found its roots in the First Intifada, aiming to create an Islamic Palestinian state. It established a reputation as a provider of social services, gaining popularity among Palestinians. However, it also maintained a military wing, the Is al-Din al-Qassam brigades, known for acts of violence against Israeli targets. In the early 2000s, Hamas stepped into the political arena, winning a significant number of seats in the Palestinian Legislative Council and eventually taking control of the Gaza Strip. Its existence has not been without controversy, with many countries designating it as a terrorist organization. Yet it has also been part of ceasefires and negotiations with Israel. Understanding Hamas is key to understanding the complexities of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict.